New York City and the Hudson Valley, communities that have been connected by the Hudson River on its path to the ocean for millennia. And now, our communities live in crisis. New Yorkers are grappling with a devastating loss of life since the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. Racism and greed have left hundreds of thousands of New Yorkers without enough money for food, rent, or medical care.
North Star Fund has been supporting local grassroots organizing for over 40 years. But starting in 2020, most of our grantees had to suddenly lead in a different era. On top of organizing for racial and economic justice, they were now suddenly addressing dire needs in housing, food, physical safety, and life-saving PPE. The summer brought a monumental shift New Yorkers have been working towards for decades, a public reckoning with anti-Black racism. In the streets, on bridges, online, you could see dozens of local grassroots organizations leading the way.
North Star Fund exists to provide sustained support for organizing based in communities of color in New York City and the Hudson Valley. Our approach to grant making is centered in our commitment to building movements ready to dismantle white supremacy in New York.
We made these grants to organizations that had suddenly adjusted to the online version of organizing, having Zoom meetings and Facebook gatherings to identify and connect with tens of thousands of New Yorkers. Too many families who were affected by COVID had no stimulus checks to help them have food or pay rent, especially in the rural communities of the Hudson Valley.
Starting in March 2020, we gave all of our grantees more money without them asking for it. This is not a thing most funders do. We had one of the biggest grant-making periods in our history, moving $1.7 million in grants in 2 weeks. From January 2020 to this spring, we've made around $18 million in grants, almost a fifth of the grants we have ever made over the course of 40+ years. These funds went to organizations deeply connected to communities who weren't getting the support they needed from local, state, or federal government. It supported domestic workers, food workers, delivery workers, farm workers, and many other New Yorkers.
These grants are possible because you come together to make them happen. You make gifts, you support campaigns, you push your friends and family to give. We're making big commitments to dismantle white supremacy, and we're not going back to any old normal. We're bigger and stronger now more than ever. And with you, we'll move even more money to support grassroots organizing for a different future in New York. Join us.